From the Stop the War Coalition. She's joining us on the line from London. Thanks for being with us on RT. As we've heard today, the International Criminal Court's launching, isn't it, an investigation into alleged crimes against humanity taking place in Libya. You must ask, though, is this kind of involvement important at this stage? Shouldn't the international community be taking instead greater steps to stop the bloodshed rather than looking at the whys and wherefores? Shouldn't it be really getting in there and stopping it now?
Well, I think the international community should actually keep well away from what is going on in the Middle East. The people of the region, in Tunisia, in Egypt, in Bahrain and all these places, have shown with great courage exactly how you do get rid of dictators, and they have to be allowed to do this in Libya. The international community, after all, are the people who backed Hosni Mubarak right till the very end. They're the people who sold Gaddafi arms and weapons which he's now using against his own people, and it's simply a fact that you cannot trust them to intervene. We've already seen in Iraq, we've already seen in Afghanistan the terrible mess that the Americans and the British have made, and they really should not be even thinking about trying to intervene in any way.
But are you also saying, when this, as and when it does die down, that there should not be an International Criminal Court investigation into these alleged human rights abuses?
I don't have any problem with an International Criminal Court investigation, although I think it's quite incredible that the Americans have referred Gaddafi when they don't even recognise this court and where they won't accept the jurisdiction of this court. But I don't have any problem with this. But this is not the main issue here. The main issue is that the Libyan people, like many other people in the Arab world, are standing up for their rights, are trying to achieve democracy. They need the support and solidarity of the West. They definitely do not need military intervention by any of the Western powers.
Well, despite...
we now have...
Yeah, I was going to say, despite what you're saying, there is a greater call, as this is going on from within the opposition in Libya, for help from outside. The US, as these calls are coming out, is continuing to bolster its military presence in the region. The UK has voiced its readiness to act if the situation worsens. Do you think those calls from within Libya shouldn't be heeded then?
I think they're a very small minority at the moment. All the information that I get is that the vast majority of people who are opposing Gaddafi are saying we want to do it on our own, we have to do it on our own. Imagine what would be the situation. Why if they're so keen to intervene, for example, haven't they done so in Bahrain, where the government is shooting down protesters, including women and children, in a camp a couple of weeks ago, and where the US fleet is stationed. There is no question of doing it there. They're doing it in Libya because they want to keep hold of the resources of Libya, particularly the oil and gas, which they've allowed Gaddafi to arm himself in exchange for oil and gas. That is the rotten deal that has been done, particularly by the British, but also by the Americans. So we can't expect them to now suddenly turn around and help people.
Well, I'm taking in everything...
That is not what they are there
I'm taking in everything you say there, but of course over 202,000 people are reported to have died in the result, with Gaddafi still refusing to give up power. Surely any means of ending the bloodshed should be considered as better than nothing, isn't it?
No, it isn't better than nothing, because what it will mean is the Western powers, who are very strongly distrusted in this region for obvious reasons, for the reasons of what has happened in Iraq, or the history of colonialism in the region, it will not be better than nothing. It will create a situation where once again the West is playing an occupying role in the region. It is bitterly resented for what it does in Iraq, it is bitterly resented for what it does in Afghanistan, and this will simply make the situation worse. And most importantly, it will not allow the people of Libya to make the real democratic choices that they now need to make.
You touched on it just now briefly. Elaborate, if you would. Why do you think Western forces then are so keen to get directly involved in events unfolding in Libya?
Well, I think it's absolutely clear that the whole of these upsurges and revolutions in the Middle East have taken them completely by surprise, because their whole strategy for 30 years has been to back these dictators against their people. They have not cared at all about democracy as long as their interests were safe, and they are terrified in Libya that the vast resources of oil will be taken from their hands and will be in the control of the Libyan people rather than of the Western oil companies. And that, in my opinion, is exactly where they should be.
Lindsey, in the shorter term, where do you think this is going to go? Colonel Gaddafi's assets have been frozen. The opposition's closing in on the leader we hear. What do you think is going to happen to him? His back's against the wall. He's saying he wants to fight to the death.
Well, people say this kind of thing. Let's see whether he actually will do that. My feeling is that Gaddafi's days are numbered. I don't think he's in a position to fully reassert control of the country, and I think he may still well go into exile. He may. There are talks about deals and so on still going on, but obviously it's a very, very serious situation. But what we should be doing is giving every support for the people of Benghazi, the people who have risen up. Why doesn't the British government recognise the city of Benghazi, the government of Benghazi, if it wants to do something concrete? Why is it that its only aim is to intervene militarily? And a no-fly zone, we saw this with Iraq, will involve military action, will involve the West imposing its rule, and will be something which is totally unacceptable, I think, to most people in the Middle East.
All right, thoughts there of Lindsey German. Thanks for being with us from the Stop the War Coalition.